What is up? My name is Claire, and today I want to talk about a book called Boy Parts by author Eliza Clark. I did want to put a little disclaimer saying I am obviously not any kind of literary critic. I just hadn't seen much about this book on social media, and I had a lot of thoughts about it. First being, I could not put this book down. I read most of this in like a day just because I couldn't get enough. It was like, the way Eliza Clark writes is just magnetic to me. I'm not even really like an avid reader. Like I have a Goodreads account. I think I've read like 50 books, so go me. So yeah, not super avid reader. I think I found this on, it was a Goodreads list titled something about female rage, so you know it was gonna be good. And just the title is very, very appealing to me, sort of like gruesome sounding, and the whole don't judge a book by its cover, I get it. I do love a good book cover though. Like this, it was just magnetic to me the first time I saw it, and I read the title and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And I was at the bookstore and I found it and I just bought it, and I'm so happy that I did. And like I said, it's got a little bit of attention. There's a couple YouTube videos about it. I did Google it before I decided to make this video, but I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. I will give a trigger warning for sexual assault, and I mean, it's pretty much all tied up in sexual assault, but like violence, I guess, kind of. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna get right into it. Okay, I also want to say I don't usually film videos on this camera. Like I usually use my phone, so I'm really not sure how this is gonna turn out, but bear with me, the lighting keeps changing and somebody's mowing their lawn, so I'm not sure if you can hear that in the background. But yeah, I don't want to spoil this book. I think I'm gonna keep the first bit of this video just like a book recommendation, like read this if. The writing is not like any kind of literary masterpiece or anything. Like the writing is very easy to follow. It's not any kind of like 19th century literature, you know. You don't have to take a grade 12 English class to be able to unpack the metaphors. But it is like, her writing is very quippy. It's like very clever and biting. So like she is definitely a talented writer. It just, for me, it was very easy to follow. Like I didn't have any trouble sort of like being like, okay, what's going on? I need to reread this paragraph, you know? So it's just a really easy book to pick up and just inhale like I did. I'll give you a brief synopsis of Boy Parts. The protagonist's name is Irina. She went to school for photography, like university. I think she has a master's. And that's sort of, her career never really took off. So she's working in a bar. She's kind of miserable. She only really has like one friend who she sort of hates. And it's about how her career does kind of take off in an unexpected way. She gets this deal to display her photographs at a gallery, so she sort of has to go through all of her work and pick the pieces that she's most proud of to include in this show. And the subjects of her photography are young, average-looking men, and she dresses them up in sort of like feminine, submissive ways. So the theme of this exhibit that she's going to be including her photographs in is sort of like fetish art. But Irina herself is kind of a disturbed individual. She's had a lot of past trauma, so the book is really interesting in sort of how her trauma shapes her art and the person that she is. And I just think these types of characters are really interesting because it also did sort of remind me of Lolita and My Dark Vanessa, if you've heard of those books, where it's just sort of, I feel like her trauma affects her in ways that she's not completely cognizant of. And just like some of the excuses that she makes to herself, I'm like, wow, girl, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. But yeah, I won't give too much away, but yeah, I think that's all you should need to know going into this book, because I read the back and I feel like I was sort of misled, and that's why I was so drawn into this book, because it didn't develop the way that I thought it was going to develop. I think you should read this book if you are into books about horrible women, like a sort of evil protagonist, because as I was reading it, I just kept almost comparing her to the protagonist in Otessa, I'm gonna mispronounce her last name, Moshfegh, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. This book I also really enjoyed because the female protagonist is just so, like, intolerable, and I just feel that's kind of cathartic. So yeah, I would recommend Boy Parts if you just love reading about, like, gritty, awful, bitchy, vile women. And it doesn't take away any enjoyment from the book. Like, you're not like, oh my god, I hate this person. You're just like, oh my gosh, I hate you, like, tell me more. If you're into, like, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, like Fleabag type women, I would definitely recommend reading Boy Parts. Also, if you're a fan of unreliable narrators, I think, yeah, unreliable is the word. I almost said non-reliable. Guys, it's okay. I did graduate high school. If you enjoy any kind of disturbing media, I would say you would probably like this. I'm kind of a poser when it comes to disturbing, like, movies and stuff, because I'm interested in them, like, plot-wise and story-wise, and I always want to know more about, like, just what it's about. But when it comes to actually watching, like, those types of scary movies, I'm kind of a wuss. But I do have an interest in them. Like, I watch video essays about the, like, top 10 most disturbing movies of all time, and then I Google the plot on Wikipedia, but I'm never gonna, like, seek them out. So, and I found this book completely fine to read. Like, it wasn't really scary, but it does sort of, like, fall in that category of, like, disturbing. But yeah, the main character sort of has this obsession with those disturbing movies, so there is a lot of content like that mentioned, and it is a bit graphic at points. I also don't want to spoil anything for that, but yeah, there was definitely some names in there that I was like, oh my gosh, I saw a Wendigoon video about this. I've also seen it compared to American Psycho, like American Psycho if Patrick Bateman was a woman, and I think that that's also a valid comparison. I've seen the movie, but I've never read the book. So yeah, if you like American Psycho, but you want to see, like, a female rage take on American Psycho, definitely read this. Now I want to get into the spoilers. Well, kind of loose spoilers. Even if you watch this part, I'd still recommend reading this book, and maybe this part will convince you to read this book, I don't know. The summary on the back did mislead me. I thought it was going to be very, like, sort of grindhouse almost, like she was gonna chop up these boys and take photos of them, and it was gonna be gross and, like, really gory, and it was gonna be how, like, she lured them in, and then, like, her process, and then how she got caught and, like, trying to escape the police. But it really wasn't anything like that. It was a much more, like, slow paced descent. She did sort of fall apart, but it was not in the way that I was expecting either. It was actually like she was having a mental health break and sort of, like, experiencing psychosis and, like, having a hard time distinguishing what's real from what's not. She starts becoming a little bit violent, sort of being like, and she also just has this weird complex because she's described in the book as, like, very beautiful, sort of being able to get away with anything. So that combination of nothing in her life that she does that's, like, evil has any impact, and also she's having a hard time gauging what's real and what's not, she starts to act out. But even then, it's not super, like, I just thought they did it in, like, it was written in such a skillful way where it was, like, realistic. I didn't feel I was, like, rolling my eyes too much, because I did feel the end of My Year of Rest and Relaxation was sort of a fantasy, when she just, like, this is a spoiler for the end of this book, but she wakes up She wakes up after her year of rest and relaxation, so refreshed, ready to go at the world with brand new eyes, and I just think that was sort of like a moment, like not the greatest message. Like, are you endorsing this kind of behavior and like drug addiction, prescription drug addiction and stuff? I just thought that that was kind of almost a cop-out because she didn't want to write about the consequences of her actions, but whatever. I did enjoy the book overall. But the ending of Boy Parts, I felt, was very satisfying to me. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm still like hesitant to give like actual real spoilers. She makes so many references to like early 2000s and like 90s media that I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. For example, I underlined this in my book. They just started playing the Weezer cover of Africa, like as if it wasn't lame enough in here already, as if the vibe couldn't get any whiter. Real. But I do get it. Being at the club, they start playing Weezer, I would have the same sentiment. I watch him swing around to Just Like Heaven as if it was techno. It's like the most vile woman. And it's so entertaining to read about. It's almost like cathartic for me, I think, to just read about such a gritty, unflinching, awful woman. It's like, yeah, I get it. And then it gets problematic, and then I stop getting it, and I'm like, I quit making excuses for her behavior because she is deeply messed up and she never really deals with her trauma, so it manifests in weird ways. Like, she's kind of almost got weird femcel behavior where she likes to sort of torture men and like torture in like a weird sexual way. This book is very sexual, but I can be kind of a prude when it comes to like sex in books and movies, and I didn't find this over the top or overtly offensive. I thought it was done in a way that was readable. Like, you could read it and not be like, ooh, like, and if you were like, ooh, it was for a good reason. It wasn't just like smut for the sake of smut or anything. Well, I mean, I'm recommending it, so it can't have been too offensive, otherwise I wouldn't say go read it. But yeah, I just think so many parts about the book were well done, and I basically just wanted to make a video recommending it. This is incredibly unprofessional. Like I said, I'm very far from any kind of literary critic. I just kind of wanted to gush about this book because I have not really seen anybody gushing about it. And like, I read a couple bad reviews on Reddit and I was like, I don't want to be that person, but you didn't get it. And like, that's fine. You don't have to like or understand every piece of media that you read, but I was just like, dog. They're like, the writing is just so simple, and it's like, she's so unemotional, everything. Like, does she actually care about anything? Like, everything was just so blah and bleak. I was like, yeah, for a reason, because that's who she is. I thought I would get more into spoilers, but I just really don't feel like it, because I think everybody should just read this if you're interested. So yeah, Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. Pick it up. That's my take. Thank you for joining me on the first episode of Claire's extremely unprofessional takes. Thank you. Have a good day.